Okay, now we're at the point where we're ready to start talking about file I/O, and by file I/O we mean file input and output. And what do we mean by that exactly? Well, basically, up until now, all the programs that we've written, they run in memory, and when it's over, and there's really no evidence of us ever having run the program at all. In reality, a lot of programs need some sort of way to save data so that it can be retrieved for later use, or used to generate reports or something like that. So typically a large program will save data to a database and retrieve data from a database. We're not ready for that, but we can start moving in that direction by saving our data to data files, like outside text files, not databases per se, but they kind of serve as like a little database, very little unsophisticated database. It's just a file with our data in it. Here's an example of one. Well, here's an array. We have the 7 dwarves in the array, and then we'll write the code to save it, save the array contents, the dwarves, to a text file. So I'll show you what we're aiming for here. We have this file dwarves.txt. It'll open in Notepad when I double click on it, and there are the dwarves. So they're in a text file, and they're saved to the hard drive. So after the program is done, there's this little file with data in it that we can retrieve later. And later we'll learn how to read it back in and all that. So basically, this isn't a lot of code. What we'll do is maybe create a name for our text file. You know what, I think I'll throw this in the recycle bin, the actual text file, because my program will generate a new one. Okay, so why don't I create a variable called output file? And I'm going to give that variable the name, or the contents, dwarves.txt. When we're saving data to files, you can make it a text file. Okay, that's perfectly fine. Then it'll open up in Notepad. But you don't have to make it a text file. If you wanted to open it in Microsoft Word, for example, you could make it a docx file. But you won't have any formatting in it, so you may as well just save it as a straight text file. Notepad opens very quickly, unlike Word, which takes a little while to load. So whatever file name you type, then that'll be the name of the file that will be saved when all this is said and done. Okay, and then basically we're going to be looping through the array and writing each dwarf to the file one by one. Okay, so let's set up a loop. I'll use the loop counter Z. And we're going to go, or loop, as many times as there are dwarves. So we'll use our get item count on the dwarves array. Okay, nothing new to you there. Okay, now inside the loop, this is where we write the line of code that will write one dwarf to the text file. And then because the loop runs 7 times, all 7 dwarfs will get into the text file. So there's this file object that you'll see in Small Basic, and it has certain methods, and one of those methods is the writeLine method. Okay, and if you look over here on the right, what kind of arguments does this method require? Well, the file path. We already have that isolated in the output file variable. Okay, we could hard code dwarves.txt there, but we already isolated it in the output file variable, so I'm going to type output file there. Also, very importantly, we have to provide a line number, and not coincidentally, we're going to have line number 1, line number 2, line number 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, one for each dwarf. So the output file will ultimately have 7 lines of text in it. Now, our loop counter, Z in this case, can handle that numbering, because he is, like I said, not coincidentally going to take on the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 7. So we'll use Z as our line number there. And then the contents are the array contents. So here we go. Providing the output file. Okay, we said we would use Z to handle the line numbering because he's our loop counter. and he has the numbers that we want as this loop is executing. And then the contents that we're writing, which will be dwarves z. Okay, and that'll do it. You know, if I run this program as is, oh, did you see that quick flash? The program did run, and the file, I'm sure, was created. We'll check it real quick. You know, the file is going to be saved to the same folder, by default, the same folder that the program file is in. So this is the folder that the actual program file, that the program that I'm typing in, that this file resides here. So the text file is going to go right in that same location. So we'll open it up, and there are the dwarves, as expected. Now, so that the user just doesn't see this quick flash and think that it didn't work, I typically will do something like this: text window.writeLine, and then just a quick message like data saved, just so the user has some feedback. Okay, and there you go. In the next video, we'll use that output file, the dwarves.txt. Now that we have data, we'll write a brand new program that'll read that data back in. This is a two-way street. You want to save contents to an outside file, but also be able to read them back in from an outside file.